My name's Aengus of Snodaigh, Sinn Féin candidate for Dublin South Central, and you're in the heart of the constituency here in the F2 centre. And we have Paul Donnelly, our candidate in Dublin West. The reason we're here today is to launch a very important document in my view. It's Sinn Féin's policy commitments, a manifesto for the election in terms of the community and voluntary sector. We believe that this sector is one of the key sectors in Irish society going forward, but in particular it is a key sector in a time of recession when communities are struggling and where they're dependent more and more on a sector which delivers services and support for the community. Young people, the elderly, people who've just become unemployed, and those who are struggling to make ends meet all depend on this sector. People who have availed of those services can attest to that. There is a great threat to services who have already pared to the bone their expenditure, who cannot survive if there is any further cuts. Many services will in fact close if the cuts which have hit them already in the last 2 to 3 years are repeated in any future budget. There is a number of key proposals we believe is that there be no further cutbacks in the budgets to community and voluntary sector. In fact, it should be the opposite way the funding should go, to allow those services to enhance the services available, but also to enhance the advocacy on behalf of all of those groups in society who don't have a voice, and the voice is given by the voluntary sector in particular. But another key change to allow the community groups and the voluntary groups to deliver their services so that they know exactly how much money they're getting on an ongoing basis. So that is that we move towards multi-annual funding so that the groups can plan over a period of 2, 3, 4 years or even 5 years, as happens in many other countries in the world. The second one is, as I said, to ring fence the funding, to ensure the funding is there, but also to ring fence key funds that are available to the state, similar to the dormant accounts funds and the CAB funding, and to use that to develop and to help communities which are in distress, given the fact that in many cases the Celtic Tiger never visited them and never delivered the full potential to those communities. Job creation is another key element, and I'm not going to concentrate on the whole potential of job creation, but in terms of the community voluntary sector, there is 55,000 or the equivalent of 55,000 people working in that sector, and we believe that can be enhanced, but also more can be done to help the job creation through the expansion of the CE schemes and also the social enterprise area. We believe that there is a need for the All-Ireland Consultative Forum to be set up as promised under the Good Friday Agreement, and through that you allow communities at all levels to be involved in democracy at every level, a participatory democracy, that they can have a role in deciding the future policies and political trends of our country. And then the full recognition of the right to advocacy. For too long, groups have been marginalised because they haven't been given a voice, and I believe that we need as a society to shift towards, as I said, participatory democracy, and that means that you have to help those groups who cannot, for one reason or another, advocate fully for themselves, that you give them those strengths, you build up their capacity, and that can be done through ensuring that they have the right to advocacy. We're in a centre here today which shows that if you will harness the goodwill in community, the knowledge in community, the imagination of a community, that in fact you can produce a great result. It's not good enough just to have the result, you have to ensure that it endures. And in this centre here, like every other centre around the country, there is problems with funding into the future, because you need to ensure that the funding is there to keep the centres going and the services that are contained in those centres. It is no good having buildings, white elephants around the country. We need to ensure that the services in them are available, enhanced and properly funded.
I have worked in the Dublin West area for the last 15 years in terms of community development and looking at how we can develop our communities and progress our communities. There's no doubt over the last 10 to 12 years there has been progress made in supporting communities. However, there is a great fear at the moment that the present economic crisis will be used as an opportunity to cut back on some of those services. And I think there's a real fear out there in terms of the present polls and with Fine Gael, who don't have that genuine commitment to communities, that the cuts will be even more severe. I work in particular in the chairperson of the Blakestown Mount Community Drugs team, and we have suffered absolutely savage cuts over the last 2 to 3 years, to such an extent that we're at risk at this moment in time of whether we can actually deliver some of the services that we have been doing over the last number of years. Programme costs have been cut to the bone. Staff morale has been absolutely demolished because they fear for the future. They fear for the future of their jobs, but they also fear for what the services that are being provided in the community. Because we fought long and hard. We battled on the streets, and we marched and we protested, and we sat down with government departments like the HSC, and we eventually came up with community-led developmental programs that actually are having an effect and have had an effect on the drugs problem over the last 10 to 15 years. Investment in community needs to continue. You know, in terms of the areas that we work in, this time, in times of a recession, in times where there's less money, it is more important that we invest in community, because we have more people unemployed, we have more people on social welfare, we have more people who will be leaving school early because of disadvantage, we will have more people who are being involved in the drugs problem, and young people who are getting sucked into the whole drugs culture. That's the time that we need resources. That is the time that we need more people to get involved, and we need more money to keep the services running